Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cosmic Owl Astrology. I am Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl, and today we're going to look at the US election. I'm not going to make a prediction because I think this election is one that could leave us with a completely unexpected outcome ultimately. There's so much, there's three major things going on that are, as I described it, punking, punking this election. On November the 3rd, the election day, Mercury retrograde stations direct at 25 degrees Libra, which is probably going to mean that we don't know the result for quite some time. Then on the day that the Electoral College all meets on December the 14th, which happens to be my birthday, we have a massive total solar eclipse. Wow. At 23 degrees Sagittarius. And then on January the 20th, which is Inauguration Day, we have Mars exactly conjunct Uranus at 6 degrees of Taurus and in square to Saturn and Jupiter, which will by then have moved into Aquarius. Add to that, we have the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn on December the 21st at 0 degrees Aquarius, which if you want to read up, I'll put a link in the in below about Tecumseh's prophecy and the Great Conjunction and our presidents. Many presidents have died in office, apart from two actually, that were elected in the year of the Great Conjunction. So we have interesting things going on here. I mean, some died from natural causes, some died from assassination. Reagan survived, but he did have an assassination attempt, and we found out he had dementia. So, in some ways, he had left the building in his presidency, and the other one was Bush Jr. And I won't comment on that one. So, this election currently, as I record this, we are on October the 18th. We've just had a Libra new moon at 23 degrees of Libra, which is 2 degrees from where Mercury will station direct on election day. And we currently have Joe Biden and Donald Trump as the candidates, but they're both quite elderly, and really anything can happen in this election. I am not kidding you. So I'm going to look at a couple of charts, but okay. So I think I want to look at election day first of all. All right, so let's share. And I'm probably going to bring in the current candidates charts, but who knows? So this is election day. I've set it for 10 p.m. on November the 3rd. Mercury actually stations retrograde earlier in the day. Now, Mercury rules the North Node in this chart, and the moon, which generally represents the people, is in Gemini here. So Mercury, I take that as a potential for a change of direction, because the moon and the North Node are in Gemini at 20 degrees. But Mercury's over here in Libra, as I said, conjunct that new moon, that's today. And the station is really kind of awkward But we also have a couple of other things going on. We have this T-square that's really ongoing and has been ongoing from this weekend, still going, bringing massive shocks and surprises around Hygeia in Libra, which is global health, but also in Leo, it's about the heart and the such like. And Juno over here is really talking about the rights of marginalized people. So there's definite, shifts around all of this impact about the health, the pandemic, even a candidate's health potentially is going to bring a lot of change. Now, because Biden and Trump are about not far off age-wise, Hygeia is affecting both their Plutos. So, because they were born with Pluto around that degree, but I'll look at that in a minute. So we've got that T-square. We've got the other T-square that's kind of been coming and going. As I record, the Sun is squaring all the Capricorn energy and opposing Eris. But by the time of election day, when Mercury stations direct, it is really kind of activating this T-square. So we have those two ongoing points of tension, a fixed T-square and a cardinal T-square, cardinal initiating change, but which way will it go? And then the fixed also causing kind of earthquakey material with Uranus there bringing big surprises. And we'll find a lot of this is a repeated story. It's just the fact that Mercury, especially that Mercury is stationing here. Now, interestingly, that is opposing Eris, which is she's chaos, discord. All right, she is the outsider who is ripping down the facade of the elites, if you like, or the insiders, thanks to Nancy, I can't remember her name, sorry, Nancy Fisher, who wrote an article in the Career Astrologer, the organization of professional astrologers. It was in the September issue. She wrote an article about Eris, and she called. I'd been calling them the elites, but she calls them the insiders, and I like that. So I'm going to take that from her. So thank you, Nancy. And so Mercury is opposing Eris, who's shaking up the outsider coming in and shaking up the insiders, which is our institutions. And of course, both, Biden is an insider, but now also Trump is really. It's like they're all in this moneyed, not Biden so much, but the ruling people, the establishment, the classes. And I know Trump presented himself as an outsider, and he was an outsider politically, but he's not an outsider in terms of the mass inequalities in this country. And we've seen that all this Capricorn energy with Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter and the squares to Aries they have been really shaking things up all this time. Okay. So of course, that's almost like, oh my God. Not to mention that Mars is also 10 days away from his station direct. So we've got that point of tension in his rare retrograde in his own sign, Aries, 41 and 88 being the other years in kind of recent history that Mars was stationing direct. So let me stop a share for a second to make sure I'm getting the right charts up. So I am going to, get Trump. And then I do want to make sure I'm getting, because keeps disappearing. Biden's chart too. So I'm actually going to look at Bernie Sanders quickly as well. But on election day, the moon and north node are actually on Donald Trump's north node exactly, which always is a turning point, but it usually kind of means, with it being the north node on its north node, it often means a good turning point for that person. All right. So we have that north node on there with the moon at 10 o'clock at night. Now, I don't know if we'll know the election result by 10 o'clock at night. Some polls will only just be closing, things like that. But of course, there's been much early voting. We'll only, I think, really have an idea if there's a huge landslide. I don't think, and with Mercury stationing retrograde, that's going to be interesting to see. But let's look at where Mercury's retrograding. Mercury's retrograding at 25 degrees in exact square to his Saturn, Venus in Cancer. And that is less favorable, all right, especially because these two are already under stress from the opposition from Saturn and Pluto. And so that is more challenging. Then, as I said, the other T square, which is Uranus and Lilith is in there as well. And the Sun and Hygeia are squaring his 12th house Pluto, which 12th house can be a real place of loss. And I'm not sharing my screen, am I? So let me have a look. I will point out quickly. Sorry. Okay, the North Node on Donald Trump's North Node. Now there's some people think that this is the wrong chart. It's been rectified, but for the purposes of this, Venus was crossing his ascendant when he got COVID, which to my mind kind of indicates that this could be the right time. But I'm going to actually change to probably go back to 1054. You can see here that would move this to his ascendant with the Hygeia and the North Node in the 11th house, which is a bit of a shift and a change, and the all this in the house of his health, and the square of Mercury in place of loss. So this is interesting. He's getting some very direct impacts. Okay, so I want to edit back to 10:54 a.m. and then look at Joe Biden's. Okay, now Joe Biden, we do not actually have well, they're not sure about his birth time either, but it's only A rated, so we'll take the house placements with a bit of a pinch of salt. But on the election day for Joe Biden, the sun is exactly on his Mars. Okay, so that's interesting. The nodes and the North Node and his moon are in his 7th house, which is generally good for politics. So that's really interesting. Also squaring his Ceres in his home, in his house chart. So it could indicate him bringing some healing, possibly, if he's bringing things together. All of this Capricorn stuff squared by the Mercury station though. Mercury is stationing in his 11th house, which is the kind of groups, the masses, organizations. Mercury stationing retrograde there, squaring this, which is in his house of how he earns his money, really, self-esteem and self-worth. That could be good for him too. These are very interesting times. Interestingly, the North Node and the Moon are also squaring, if his time is correct, are squaring his midheaven and his IC. And Neptune is also giving that a bit of stress too. So both candidates have good and not so good aspects. So it's just going to be so interesting. All right. Now let's look at the Electoral College. I'm actually just going to bump up this one and then go to the Electoral College. The eclipse on the day the Electoral College meets. Now, this is a big eclipse. It's at 23 degrees Sagittarius, but it's also a long one. It's very close to the nodes. It's a south node eclipse, which is a releasing energy, the kind of tail end, or Saturn energy, if you like, kind of a stopping. It's conjunct Mercury, which, as we know, was problematic anyway because it was stationing direct. I apologize, on the election day, and what was I going to say? Yeah, it's 2 minutes 10 seconds long, this eclipse. It's huge. So this is in Biden's first house, which I don't, if his time is correct. It's also square to his midheaven and his IC too, with the North Node again in that house because the Moon was conjunct the North Node. So again, that's probably a turning point for him, but we could, see. Then we have the, I should just look at the chart itself for the Electoral College. So for the Electoral College itself, I put it at DC at 12. Each state meets separately and they all meet at different times. So we can kind of take the house placements. So I've set this as a 0 Aries midday chart. But so we ignore the houses and we just look at the patterns. We again have a mutable T-square with Neptune coming to square the nodes exactly. Vesta over here, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, and the South Node and the North Node in Gemini. That's a big surprise, literal reset energy. You kind of wonder if they will go neither for some reason. If something's happened in between where they go, hey, there's neither and it's going to be this candidate. Okay, so that's interesting too. Mars will be direct by then and coming up to square or Pluto yet again. Eris and Pluto 4 days before are having their middle of 5 exact squares from Capricorn to Aries. So that's bringing a big shake-up and chaos and change as well. So, you kind of got to wonder with this, with a mutable Grand Cross, if any of them are going to be it, if there could be something new. Because then we have that conjunction on December the 21st coming up shortly after this. Saturn and Jupiter are about to move back into 0 Aquarius. It's like, whoa, is something major going to happen? Okay. Or is something going to be launched? Or is the Electoral College going to not be able to agree and going to be court challenges and things as they think there could be? This is chaos energy again. Eclipses are wild cards. This is just such interesting energy. So then to go back to Biden, I looked at Biden briefly. Hygeia will have moved on, so that one's not so much so. The energy, but it's the card. It's this. It's on his MC. I see the cardinal Grand Cross, and from his first. So this is a change in his identity, his public identity, everything. So that could be good for him. So, but we'll see. Recently used Donald Trump. Okay, so here we have, this is in the same houses for him, but on his sun. But the nodes have moved backwards away from his node slightly. Aquarius is kind of this shock and awe, but also some sudden change. The releasing end of the eclipse is, if this time is correct, is in his 4th house. That kind of feels like maybe a loss, potentially. And with the Neptune end of the cardinal Grand Cross in his 7th house, kind of a dissolution of his business work relationships or something like that. So, it's just crazy. And then Mars and Eris are in his 8th house. That can be a house of loss or death or whatever. And this is in the squaring the 5th house, kind of the house of the King, Leo, joy, all that kind of energy. So this is just so interesting. So then we have the and I'm just doing this for interest points, just to tell you anything could happen. I could be looking at these two candidates' charts and everything could change. But what's really interesting is Inauguration Day. And that chart has gone. So let me open Inauguration. Oh, God. I'm just going to create it again because I can't find it. So new. Inauguration is at 12 p.m. That's when it starts. And that's on January 20th, 2021. This is kind of the most interesting. All right. So let's look at the chart alone, first of all. This is kind of explosive. Neptune and Ceres are squaring the nodes. That could mean an immense amount of collective grief and loss of one kind or another. Squaring the nodes, shifting our karma and our dharma. Also, the moon, I think, is void at 12 p.m. So that's interesting as well. Of course, it is void when the actual swearing-in ceremony starts. If they could delay it till the moon moves into Taurus, that would be better, but they usually don't with these things. Mars, and the most interesting thing though is this square. Mars and Uranus meet exactly at 6 degrees, and Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. And this conjunction, with added wild card of Black Moon Lilith in the mix, is square to Jupiter and square to Saturn. Square this Aquarian energy, which, this is the kind of energy where there could be just this shocking change on the day. And I'm not going to predict what that could be, but I'll let you use your imagination. If interestingly, to bring in Donald Trump's chart again, Hygeia is going retrograde and is going back to be on his Pluto, and that's the health asteroid. Uranus and Mars are kind of widely squaring that as well, of course, and Jupiter is opposing that. So, this is the kind of energy where, if it was him, say, he could have like a heart attack up there, or a bomb or assassination. I'm not going to predict again, but it's that kind of shock, surprise kind of energy. All right. So, again, not predicting because it's just too. The Neptune Ceres conjunction is in his 7th house of others. Again, if his time is correct. And this is in his daily routines, his work life, the square to this area. So, and interestingly, it's kind of a bit affecting his Ceres too. So he's not so well aspected on this. So Joe Biden. Okay, the North Node again over here. The Neptune Ceres is right on his IC, close to his own Ceres. So again, that's not such a great aspect for him, in my opinion. The Uranus and Mars conjunction is close to his moon in the 5th house. So that could be at least an emotional shock. Okay. And it's squaring this energy in his 2nd house of self-esteem, self-worth, all that kind of thing. So if you see that the Hygeia asteroid is not as close to his Pluto, though. It was closer to Trump's Pluto. But, overall, I'm just going to say that this is the wildest energy with this, with all those 3 dates being hit by major events astrologically. I don't think we can predict this election. I think it could end up, we may end up with a candidate we haven't even thought of, or, there could be some massive shock that kind of brings down the whole government, even with this kind of energy. This is intense. This is crazy. Both candidates have both good or favorable and less favorable aspects going on. Both of the current candidates. So hold on to your hats if you are, the world really, because this is going to be wild, this election, to be quite honest. I could bring in other things, but those 3 events are just enough to make this whole election, the election day, the electoral college, and the inauguration day, kind of surprising, shocking, just nuts. And I did want to look at one other thing, so I'm just going to bring in the chart again. There was a couple of other things I wanted to look at, so I'm not going to bring in the candidates' charts again. So election day. Election day, no planets are out of bounds, so that's not adding to it. On the electoral college day, the moon has gone out of bounds. Mercury has gone out of bounds. That electoral college day is going to be really bring some surprises, I think, because of the eclipse and two out of bounds things. And then the inauguration. We have no out of bounds to add to it. But really, the Mars, Mars-Uranus square these planets in Aquarius is enough to bring any shocks, so and surprises. So hold on to your hats, everybody, and if you like my videos, please give a subscribe. This one was just kind of a bit of fun, just to talk away about expect the unexpected. Have a great day.